It should be live. Let me just, yep, looks like everything's working. All right, today we are going to go through this commencement speech by David Foster Wallace. I don't really know that much about him. I genuinely only learned about him like a few days ago. I want to say 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Um, but yeah, I was told to listen to this commencement speech, and I couldn't find a good one that was like I couldn't find one with a video. Maybe there's one out there, but it seems to me like it's just a recording. So for that, I found this after school video, which again, great channel, does a good job of um, animating stuff. So I thought it'd be perfect to use this video. I feel like I use this guy way too much, and he's so good at like it's so easy to talk. It's so easy to go off on tangents, using this guy's images in his videos. And I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of other people that do this, but yeah. With that said, we will get started on this. And I also pulled up this. This is a 2 minute video, but it seemed interesting. And to me, the gist of what David Foster Wallace talks about, or at least how I understand it, is he is essentially saying that the more and more we get into social media, the worse it's going to be for us. If he only knew the state of things right now, I think he would be truly shocked and horrified. But yeah, interesting guy from what I can tell. Haven't read anything by him, but let's get into it.
And congratulations to Kenyon's graduating class of 2005. If anybody feels like perspiring, I'd invite you to go ahead because I'm sure going to. In fact, I'm going to get a hanky right here. There are these two young fish swimming along.
My commencement speech was like literally by a student, and it was so bad. Like, no offense to whoever did it, but like, I'm pretty sure the year before my sister graduated, uh, the person that spoke at our college was Barack Obama. And then the year after, it was Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's like those two names in terms of recognition compared to some random student, it just, I could tell I'm going to enjoy this. You could tell there's almost like a Taoist heart to this idea. It's like Osho has a book, it's called When the Shoe Fits. And the whole point of the book is when the shoe fits, it feels like it's part of your foot. And really what he's saying is that there's realities in this world that are so obvious that people can't see through them. People can't see things for what they are. Like I mean just think of, you've heard about peer pressure your whole life, but aren't most of our actions guided by peer pressure? Aren't even some of the good things we do for peer pressure? You went to school because people told you to go to school, even though you wanted to be creative, even though you would be much happier if you went into trade school. Like I'm literally just talking about myself right now, but you get the point. It's like there's things that are so apparent to an outside observer, but because you're involved in it, you can't quite see the bigger picture. Think about a friend who's in a very bad relationship and he's like, I don't know what to do, man. And you're just like, I could tell you the truth, but I'm not gonna because you're gonna get mad at me. But you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. It's that sort of thing. It's the when you have the bird's eye perspective, you can see the truth. And I've been through several commencements at this point in my life, and it's so true. It's always like you're gonna go off and do great things, and then you just do what everyone else did, and it's just, they're empty words, they're hollow words.
You tend
So what he's saying here is a very important point, and I'll explain it because he's gonna get into another analogy, so I don't want to miss it. But it's not really about your capacity to think, and your capacity to think is so what he's saying is we fill your head with information, but that's not really so much the goal of it. What a true education is your ability to take what you learn and apply it, to synthesize ideas and come up with new ideas. There's this real return to reading the classics, and I think it's mostly derived from the fact that like most of the stuff that we read has no basis to it, whereas the classics have some common thread to human existence, and That's why you get so much when you read a Dostoevsky. That's why you get so much when you read a Dante. That's why you could be so inspired by reading Shakespeare. It's because everything else that has ever been written tries to do the same thing but doesn't hit the heights because it doesn't understand humanity. And more or less, this is what I think he's saying here.
skeptic.
I wonder if this is
The
like a
atheist just
common
rolls his eyes.
story.
No, man, all that was a couple Eskimos happened to come wandering by and they showed me the way back to camp. It's easy to
This is that Robert Anton Wilson quote, "What the thinker thinks the prover proves." So this guy, his perspective is that he asked God for help and God gave him help, whereas this guy, his perspective is, well, it was just mere chance that these people came. It wasn't any external metaphysical principle that brought them there. I don't know if he's gonna get into Jungian psychology or Freudian psychology. I'm not sure where he's going with this. I'd say it's about the same. I hate when everyone goes, well, that person's worse than this person. It's like you could do that all day, but we're gonna be here all day, and what does it solve? Like, I don't know, even passing those judgments just is, and this is something I say all the time. It's like, even nihilists believe in a God because believing in the absence of God, like, is the exact same sort of belief in a metaphysical absence as a metaphysical presence. It's the same thing. It's sort of the same conviction. It comes from the same place. It's just an inversion of it. It's like how hate and love kind of come from the same place. Like, have you ever had an enemy or have you ever broken up with somebody and they still hate you and you're like, what, why do you even care? Why is this? Why is this? And then they try to get back together with you. It's because it's the same thing. It's the same force. You know the relationship's over. This is some relationship advice. You know the relationship's over when the person doesn't give any sort of care about you. When they put zero interest into you, that's when you know it's over. If they're still angry at you, then you can say sorry. I shouldn't tell people. So what he's describing here is the death of Socrates. The important, the most salient point from the death of Socrates, which is Socrates was seen as the smartest man because he knew what he didn't know. He knew that he couldn't describe certain things. He knew he was lacking wisdom in certain things. He knew how to listen to somebody instead of take his preconceived notion about something and then apply it to that other aspect where he might not be correct. Essentially, he was mannered. Essentially, he was rational. Essentially, he didn't give in to his arrogance or his pride or his elevated status. He kept an open mind to everything, and that's really what he's. It's true though, because like you're with yourself all day, so obviously to yourself you're the most important. The world is kind of shaped around your perception. If you have a certain ideology, every single thing that you view in the world is going to be biased by that lens, and I mean, he's bringing up very interesting philosophical points here, and I enjoy the way he's doing it too, because he's not like attaching it to any one doctrine, which is what I think people go wrong with these sorts of discussion, because when you attach it to a doctrine, it's limiting. Every single belief system is limited because it's a system. No system can encompass the whole. And you can disagree with me, but I'm sure you're not as smart as Hegel or Nietzsche or Schopenhauer or Freud or Jung. I promise you're missing something. There's something that is going to be left out when you start creating a system or a worldview. And I think the closest person that has ever done it is Heraclitus, but it's through paradox. So I don't know how well that works. This is just like a Taoist thing. When you really break it down, he's just talking about there's a self that's tied to the material world, and then there's a self that's beyond, or it's a Jungian idea, and he's just using different stories to. If somebody says you're well adjusted, I think that's an insult. I don't want to be like anyone else. Like genuinely, when you compare me to someone else, it could. That's like the meanest thing you could ever say to me because regardless of who I'm compared to, it's always far from who I am. And I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
work of adjusting.
Something you'll realize if you really study philosophy, you'll become super bored of it because that's all philosophy is at the end of the day. Is that they try to create a system, they try to create a set of words that can encapsulate all of existence, but words can't capture everything, so they fail because they're not as transgressive as the poets. They don't go as far. They can't through the medium of words explain all of existence. It takes the likes of a Dante, it takes the likes of a Homer, it takes a profound poet to even come close. Like the more I read of philosophy, the more I'm like, this is just Nietzsche repackaged. This is just Plato repackaged. This is just Schopenhauer and it's tweaked in one way, or Hegel. This is just his idea of the dialectic. It's just I've become so bored with philosophy the more I look at it. It's just it's I used to love it and I understand why I used to love it because these ideas were new and they were novel, but you can only read so many times. Oh, well, if you go about this and this and this and this, then it shows this, and then we got 500 pages later and now you have the strength to go about and it's like no. I'll stick to Emerson. I'll stick to the poets and I'll stick to the people that speak to my soul, and that's the people that speak to this material world. Learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control of how and what you think. And this is very important. So like I saw this, I was gonna write something about this, but I didn't get around to do it, so I'll just do it right now. Um, I was driving the car today and somebody said on like the back of their car on a sticker, it was like, just think it's not illegal or something. It was something along the lines of that. And I was like, this is genuinely one of the dumbest things I've ever seen because this is definitely a person that thinks they're maybe they are smarter than everyone else, but that's the wrong way to go about it because to think is illegal. And it's not illegal statutorily. It's not illegal because you don't have freedom of speech, at least maybe in your country you don't have freedom of speech, but it's illegal to think because of social convention. It's illegal to be yourself because you are afraid. You are the one that's stopping yourself from thinking. You are the one that's stopping yourself from going and exploring new ideas, going and expanding your perspective, reading something that you disagree with, engaging with a new philosophy, engaging with a new style of looking at the world. And that's thinking. Breaking the patterns is thinking. Breaking the script that you're currently running is thinking. You know, the script that's running right now in you is a combination of your experiences, everything that anybody said to you, the things that you've done, the things that you're motivated by right now, the tasks that you're currently working on, with a mix of the music you listen to, the ideas that are propagated through the media and the media that you consume. And that goes to combine your current worldview. To think is to destroy all of those influences. To think is to evaluate those influences. To think is to direct those influences. You know, the greatest thing you can do for yourself is obviously when people say dopamine detox, like there's no such thing as getting rid of all dopamine. There's no such thing. It's just directing your attention to fruitful endeavors. Instead of, you have 10 minutes to spare, instead of going on your phone, you read a book. Then you're controlling the kind of information that you're implanting in your head. Instead of picking up your phone, you go on a walk. Like there's all sorts of little things that you can do that will start rewiring your brain and allowing you to gain back control of your thought, which is just your attention. If you can sit in a room alone with no distraction for 30 minutes, then you're going well on your way to some form of greatness. But the fact is, most people can't do this, and that's why thought is destroyed. That's why having freedom of speech doesn't mean anything because what people use their freedom of speech for are lesser ideals, are boring ideals, are the same old conversations that have been happening since the millennia. Oh, it's the Hegelian dialectic. It's this side versus this side. Then there's going to be a synthesis. Then it's this side versus this side. Then it's a synthesis. It's the same old pattern, just repeated in a different iteration, and nothing gets solved. And you have to break free from that. You have to break free from these paradigms. You have to break free from these set belief systems and ideas so that you can finally reclaim who you are, reclaim your imagination, reclaim your thought. Unbounded imagination is an unbounded human, but we bind it by things that we choose to put our attention to that aren't. The mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. And this is just programming. This is not necessarily the truth. I mean, if you're someone if you're somebody that has control of your attention, you do have a mastery of your mind. But there's very few people like this in this world, and I'm not including myself in there. I still fall victim for this all the time. The only difference between me and a few years ago is that I can, for a short spurts of time, focus my attention onto things. That's the only difference. And I'm not even that good at it. I can't imagine where I'm going to be in 10 years. I can't imagine where I'm going to be in 20 years. And the mastery I have over my mind and my attention. And I
Suicide.
have not. Have you? I was saying this earlier. I don't know anything about this guy, but after listening to this, I'm probably going to read whatever he wrote. But the thing about Infinite Justice, from what I can surmise, it's like a Joycean Ulysses kind of book. And I don't know if I'm ready for that right now. I like it's an interesting way to write things, but it's just like it to me it takes away the artistry of it. To me, the jumbledness, like my mind's jumbled enough. I don't need it to be jumbled on paper. Like, you know, the style that Borges writes in is the same style as Joyce, but Borges is able to put it in 8 pages and it takes Joyce 700. It's just like to me, it's like I'd rather get to the point. Just started. Saw David Foster Wallace in the title winner. No, somebody told me to I was doing a stream on Sunday, the members only stream, and the somebody in there told me to go through this lecture, but I didn't have the energy to keep going because I just talked for an hour and a half or 2 hours about Emerson. So I was like, oh, I'll do it next time. So that's the reason why we're going through this. I'm enjoying it so far. I think he is making some good points. Really, this concept of what he's talking about is it's the stagnation. That's the greatest enemy of us. It's that human beings go about their lives and get comfortable and they're not willing to change. They're clinging on to the past. They're clinging on to their old accomplishments. They're resting on their laurels instead of expanding themselves, instead of learning, instead of growing, instead of joining new activities and gaining new perspectives and accepting the aspects of life. Like think of the idea of I know it's is it bankrupt now? Forever 21, but like that should really show you that people aren't willing to live life. They're trying to cling on to past beauty instead of gracefully age. And think about Ozempic or the various other things that people do in order to kind of look better. It's like it's a very sad world that we live in. Or even look at the maxing trend. Like there's something noble to improving yourself, but the obsession with all these ideas are kind of indicative of deeper pathologies. This is like scaring me.
The end of a workday, and the traffic is apt to be very bad. So getting
It's like the Camus' modern version of the myth of
to
Sisyphus.
this
I was at the supermarket today, and I swear, like I felt like I was in the Matrix or something because everyone was walking so slow. Like I swear to you, like I felt like I was walking 5 times faster than these people, and it wasn't like they were old people. It was just like normal middle-aged people. But like you would have thought they were pushing a boulder in their cart. It was I was genuinely so confused when I was there.
grocery
Like
shop,
a new revelation that I've had is that I love classical music. For the longest time, I've like hated music. Like hate's a very strong word, but like I don't listen to music because I think it has very bad themes to like just repeat and blast straight into my subconscious because that's what music does. Music hits your psyche at a different level than conscious speech. So like whatever you're listening to, you got to be very careful because it's like you're literally hypnotizing yourself. You're doing low levels of hypnosis on yourself. You can call me crazy, but this is just the truth. Like there's a lot of money that goes into the promotion of negative music and negative stereotypes in music to propagate mass incarceration. Literally just look it up. But like that's a lot of the reason why I don't listen to music because I think it's very degenerate. I think it's very boring. It sounds the same. It's all done through an algorithm. It's all done through AI now. And I'm listening to this classical music and I'm I'm literally standing more upright because I'm listening to it. And my posture is horrible. My neck is so messed up from all the jujitsu I do. And I'm literally standing up tall and I'm like this is like uplifting my whole soul. Like there was something in this. I'm like, why is this so good? So that's my new obsession is classical music. I should start playing it in the background, but I don't know if it's royalty free or not. Actually, I'm assuming it is because it's so old. It's probably in public domain. I don't know, because every time I've worked in like a restaurant or some place that's not an office, it's always so much more fun than working in an office because there's less rules, there's less order, there's not really like I mean, there's most places have HR department, but it's not like looking over your shoulder. And I don't know, there's somewhat more freedom in these lower stake jobs, which I don't necessarily agree with. You know what I mean? Like if you're a big high powered lawyer, or if you are, a mid-level manager, like you're expected to be in the office at a certain amount of time. You're expected to carry yourself in a certain way. You're expected to deal with emails and all sorts of stuff at all times of the day, even when you're not at work. And it's like, at least this, you just scan some stuff and maybe afterwards, you have a little bit more free time. Obviously, it pays less, but I mean, it's like that Emerson quote, money often costs too much. So it's what do we give up for money? What aspect of our lives do we sacrifice for this? Because I went back to school, so like I'm yet to like go into the real world where like I see all my friends like that have been in the real world for a few years, like it's not even like they lost their hair, like I have nothing to talk about there. But it's that like they don't have the same spark in their eyes as they used to. You could feel they look tired. You could feel they're like going through their motions. UK office culture is so toxic. I feel drained having to pretend like I like everyone all day. Is it any different from US? I literally know nothing about it. The only thing like you guys also have to deal with like the weather there. Like at least it gets I mean the weather sucks right now. It's warm right now. I have the window open, but like at least it's nice in the winter or in the summer. So like you have that and you can go to the beach here. Doesn't it rain like every other day in the UK? I went to London when I was like 12, and I swear, like most of the time it was like gray in the sky. There's a reason you guys conquered the whole world. It's because you guys wanted to get away from that weather. Anything's better than I feel like every once in a while I'll be in a mood like this, and then I'll just be like, dude, why am I so grumpy today? Like everyone else is having just as bad of a time. Like there's so many things I can look to and look at my life and be like, I'm blessed. I have a lot of things that people wish they had that people would probably die for, and I have the nerve to be upset. And that usually calms me down. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'm in an extremely bad mood, but it's pretty shit. Usually run or go to the gym at 4 a.m. Oh, wow. When it's dark out, so I don't have to see the gray clouds. Dude, I cannot like there were points in my life where I would wake up early. I don't wake up early anymore because I don't have to. I'm gonna hold out on that as long as I can, but I've never been able to wake up when it's dark. Like if it's dark out, I can't seem to get myself out of bed. I don't know how you do it. That's very impressive. You also do cardio too, which I can't do any cardio. It's so boring to me. I all the power to you if you have the fortitude to do that. It's just like I have this built-in excuse where it's like my knees are bad. They're not actually bad. But I love everyone's laughing because everyone has this experience. And then like I like sometimes I catch myself and I'm like driving, I'm like, this fucking idiot did this or this or this. And I'm like, dude, this person maybe wasted a second of my day. And I'm like acting like they're my like biggest enemy. I'm acting as if, they attacked my mother or something. Like just calm down. It's 4 a.m. sounds pretentious, but once you start, streets are empty, gym is empty. That's true. I used to go to the gym in the morning before work, and it was like the best time because if you go after work, it's just like there's just no point because you're not going to get a machine. I end up just getting annoyed, and instead of confronting people and yelling at people, I just leave. Like I'd rather get a worse workout than just deal with like somebody that's texting on a machine. Like they're not going to speed up. They're just going to believe that they're the center of the universe, as David Foster Wallace says, and just keep texting. Like one time I was with my friend at the gym and it was about to close, and we're waiting for a machine and this dude spends 10 minutes in between sets texting, and I just left. I didn't even finish the workout. It was just, it says modern consumerism sucks and then just keeps consuming. That's like the most frustrating part. Like, I was really making this point a few days ago, and I'm like, but I buy a ton of books, so I'm also really guilty of being think of it this way. Your mind is, I can't say it right, don't make fun of me. Your mind is like water. Every time I'm conscious of myself saying it, I laugh. But your mind is like water. It wants to take the easiest path. It always wants to find the easiest solution. The easiest solution, think, is it easier to take a deep breath, to exercise patience? You had a long day, all these things went wrong, you're stressed out. What's easier, to take that energy out on somebody, or to calm yourself down, to think of the good things, to think of the blessings? It's so much easier to think of negativity, and that's why negativity spreads so much on social media, because people are fed up with their lives and they want to push that negativity onto someone else. Very simple, easy projection. Um, that's really what it comes down to. It's like, what is easier, taking Ozempic or going to the gym? What is easier, eating healthy or eating McDonald's? What is easier, studying for a test and doing all the things, or just not going to take that exam? The mind wants to take the easy path, but the easy path, the path of no resistance, is never going to give you any sort of fulfillment. There's a certain necessity to struggle to life. If you don't struggle at all in life, then there's no point to it. Khalil Gibran said this perfectly. He said, every sorrow deepens your joy. Every time you experience pain, it allows you to experience pleasure that much more. It gives you the context, the appreciation, because you know how bad it could get. And since you know how bad it can get, then you really, really, really don't take the good times for granted. Schopenhauer said, all empathy derives from the fact that this art thou. And what this means is that empathy derives from the idea that you can see yourself in somebody else, that you would be just as grumpy as this other person, that you would cut yourself off if you were this other person, that you would have acted just as wrongly if you were in that person's shoes, if you had their experiences. And it allows you to kind of take a step back and see the bird's eye perspective, to see that, that person probably didn't do it because they personally hate you. It's probably because something went bad in their life. Or even if they do personally hate you, you're not the only reason for that animosity. Some people just had a hard upbringing. Some people just don't know how to deal with stress or pressure or other things. And to take something personally is to deny the fact that there's something else usually causing that strife, causing that heartbreak, causing that anger.
In this
I mean, the easiest way to think of this is like, a healthy psyche doesn't need to tear someone else down. So somebody that's completely right in the head, somebody that's completely healthy and well mannered, and very aware of themselves, will never strike out and lash out against somebody. It's only the people that are struggling with things. And in fact, we're all struggling with things. So again, you're never going to have a person that's perfect, but we can aspire to be perfect. We can aspire to have these ideas and have these morals. And if we fall short, it's okay. We just learn from the lesson, and move forward with that, mistake in mind, with that understanding that, what, I did this and I saw how it hurt that person. So SUVs. I mean, maybe he's talking about Hummers, but like, I hate driving near tractor trailers because I was in a bad accident. So maybe I prove his point.
or that the and
Have you ever noticed this too? Like, if you're trying to get somewhere and you're late and you're really stressed about being late, you miss every single light. Whereas when you're not worried about it, it just seems like you're going. You get through every single light. You don't wait. You don't struggle. There's no resistance. It's that sort of idea of things as well. It's like, the more you think about things, the more you dwell on things, the more you focus on things, you build them up in your head. This is something Seneca said, the Stoic philosopher. We suffer more in our own minds than we do in reality. And really what he's saying there is that, we dwell so much on the thing before it has even came, that we build it up to be something so great that we can't face, that when we do face it, we're petrified with fear, we're petrified with image of the trial or the struggle, and we're acting as if it's this great feat, but really it's just something simple that we have made so much larger than it needs to be. Usually you can only realize it after the fact. That's when I'm the most introspective. Usually I can't. Sometimes I can break myself out of a bad mood. Sometimes I'm able to, and completely turn a day on its head and completely have a great day when I started off so poorly. But most of the time it's after the fact. And at the very least, if you notice this after the fact, then you can understand where you fall short. Then you can understand what to do in the next scenario. You can understand the lesson that you learned from that and then move forward. Forgive yourself and move forward. That's really the essential nature of what he's saying to do. I was at Target with my girlfriend, like I want to say a month ago, maybe less, but this kid had like he like picked up a toy. He's like, "Mom, can I get this?" And she's like, "Stop it. You always do this. Do you know how stressed out it makes me?" And I was like, the kid was like 5, and I've never felt so bad for a kid in my life. Like all he wanted was a toy, and it's like maybe money's I don't know, but like it was such an overreaction. I was like, oh God, this is not good. And I looked at her and she was like, what is that? It was so bad. Everyone was looking. Actually, I saw multiple arguments at Target. I saw an older couple like yelling at each other because one guy wanted to go to the technology section. It was so funny. The woman was like, she looked like she was about to sign the papers and file the divorce. It was like the biggest overreaction ever. But again, who am I to judge? Nice person that works at the DMV, and it's not saying anything about like who they are outside of it, but like I can only imagine the horrors of what you have to deal with at the DMV. Like the paperwork is so aggravating. Like the people are definitely taking it out on them. I could promise you that. I try to be as nice to the workers. But what I want you to, he's not giving you a set exercise, but like I have something really easy. I try to say it as much as possible, but like I'm not just saying it because it sounds good. I'm saying it because I actually do it and it actually does benefit me. Like I'm a very moody person, so like some days I'm having the worst time ever, and it's like I have to remind myself that my life isn't so bad. Like I hate even saying that because like I have so many things that I can be thankful for. I have so many things that I can be positive about, but yet somewhere in my head something goes wrong and I just dwell on that alone. And it's like, you know, how much time do we spend on negativity? How much time do we spend on the negative things in our lives or the negative things going on in the world versus how much time do we spend in fruitful activities? Like you're essentially a battery. Essentially, you only have so much energy to give out. And are we giving our energy out to people that love us? Are we giving energy out to the things that we love to do? And most of the time, that's not the case. Most of the time, we're wasting it on social media, on the news, on arguments online, on arguments with your family member instead of like telling your significant other you love them, telling the people in your life how much they mean to you. And the exercise I really wanted to say is like if you for the life of you cannot break out of a mood, get out a sheet of paper and write down as many things possible that you can that you have that other people don't. It's that simple, it's that easy, and it'll immediately make your day better. How do you say is it Epictetus or I'm not even gonna try to say. I read his book and I can't say his name. There's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Yes, I certainly agree with that. I mean, there's like a lot of mystics will tell you happiness is a choice. And really all they mean by that is it's just the stuff you're putting your attention to.
Of
You get to decide how you're going to see it. Again, the world will appear as you choose to see it. If you have a certain belief system, then you're going to view everything through that lens. If you're a very strong God-fearing Christian, then you're going to see everything evil as the work of the devil. Whereas if you don't have that same belief, it's going to just appear as, wow, this world is full of awful people. Stoicism. Yeah, I know. I read Discourses, right? That's what it's called. I read that book. I don't remember much from it. Um, my favorite Stoic philosopher is Seneca,
learning how to be
just
well
because
adjusted.
he gives like such old man advice. Like his letters are always just like he's like the wise old grandpa you go to. There's no such thing as not worshiping. I think Manly P. Hall said this. I think essentially like even if you're not an atheist, that ideal will be that vacuum in your brain will be taken up by something else. So like a lot of people that don't believe in God will get a new belief such as some form of activism, some form of political involvement, some form of uh, philosophy, and instead that will replace that place, and it will become the system that is, you know, where God should be. That's really what Nietzsche was saying when he said God is dead. Seneca's the goat. Yeah, I love Seneca. I need to read more of him. I've only read Letters from a Stoic, and I really enjoyed it. I know, yeah, he has a few other things. His life is also just so interesting. Was it he was Nero's advisor and Nero killed him, and he was like, I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of me being afraid to die, and he just drank the poison and like did it with a smile.
Everybody worships.
That's honestly like probably cooler than anything else he wrote. He was like, in my dying moments, you're not going to get the satisfaction of knowing I did not choose this more than anyone else. Like even people that need money, they don't care about money as much as Larry Ellison or Elon Musk or Bezos do, because those guys just like how much money is enough money? I would retire so much earlier than those guys. Like there's literally no point to keep working after so much money. You could already do whatever you wanted. You could go gamble billions of dollars and still be a billionaire. Like it's just like at what point at what point do you just say like, all right, cool, that's good. I made enough. Now I can move on to the next aspect of my life. I can fulfill other aspects of my personality. I can pursue other interests. I can engage in new forms of life was a play. He said, life is a play. What matters is not that it lasts long, but that is well done. That is a great quote.
Your own slip into.
It's like a very simplistic thing to cling to. Think about people that cling to their intelligence. All of their conversations are trying to show how smart they are. Don't look at me. I know how dumb I am, okay? I know how dumb I am. I'm reminded every day when I look in the mirror. Um, think of somebody that loves money. All they do is check their bank account, and if it goes down, they freak out. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen somebody do this, but like have you ever met somebody that's obsessed with the stock market and they will continually look at the ticker and whenever they see red, even if it's 0.001 or like whatever it moves down, like they will freak out. Like it's crazy to me how people base so much of their life on something so arbitrary and something so hollow and something so meaningless. The real world, in fact, rewards you because it's the people that are the most greedy that make the most money. It's the people that are so self-absorbed into a certain category and are so obsessed with it, they spend all their time and they excel in that field. I mean, the true way of going through life is balance. My jujitsu coach, his dad has a saying, everything in moderation, even moderation. And really what that's saying is that it's not good to be too far in any direction. Think if you're too far on this side of the seesaw, then you're gonna go down eventually. But if you're in the middle, you can just exist in the middle. There's not this yin yang. There's not this push pull. He who seeks wisdom is a sage. He who thinks he has found it is a fool. Seneca. I think my favorite Seneca quote, because this is something that I always think about, is the teacher is both the student and the teacher, and the student is both the student and the teacher. And really, what he's saying is, in explaining ideas, you learn the ideas better, and in asking questions, you teach the teacher to learn better. That idea is, I don't know why it's so fascinating to me, but that's my favorite quote by him. You learn so much while teaching. Yeah, it's like, I mean, have you ever studied for something and then like somebody's asked you about what you're studying and you try to explain it and then you are taking that test and you're like, wow, I really get this. That's like one of the coolest things. Like every time I try to explain a concept to someone, I feel like just in trying to put it into layman terms, you get such a deeper understanding of this idea that was somewhat complex. And that's why I think like the best teachers are the people that try to bring it down to the level of the student instead of trying to elevate it. Like I've had so many professors that are geniuses. They're not very smart because they can't explain simple things and or complex things in simple terms. But these people, their whole identity is wrapped up in their intelligence, and because of this, they are speaking and talking and making this thing seem so important and so complex, whereas it's just a very simple concept. And the whole point of them teaching it is to elevate how intelligent they think they are, because I understand this difficult idea, whereas you have somebody that brings it down to the level of the student, that's somebody that really understands it. Freedom is just not being afraid. And I'll give an Emerson quote here because I think Emerson puts it better than most people. To be yourself in a world that seeks conformity is the greatest of achievements. And really what he's telling you to do is that, like, you're you and I'm not. You know, whatever unique perspective you can offer to the world, whatever unique layer that you have experienced of life, I will never have. So it serves you nothing to be like me. It serves you nothing to be like, anyone else. The only thing that you can give to the world is your experience, your ideas, your way of perceiving things, the things that you have that other people don't. But to conform is to deny your greatest gift. Simplicity is closer to the truth than complexity. Well, certainly. I mean, that's a very Taoist way of thinking, but I think you're very right there. It's like, I mean, most ideas are very easy to understand, but the more you get into them, the more complex they come and the more confused they become. Whereas, you know, the Zen Buddhist phrase of I always mess this up. Sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry. I was gonna say sleep when you're hungry. But really what's that saying is like be guided by your own senses, your own intuition, your own thoughts. And the Zen Buddhists have another saying. It's you see Buddha on the road, kill him. And it's not meant to be dark. It's not meant to be something wicked. What it's saying is, you know, you can have this image of enlightenment, but that image is based on someone else's experience, whereas your experience is what you have to find enlightenment. What the steps that you're going to have to take are going to be different from the steps that I have to take to find what it is I'm looking for, which is just wholeness, happiness, whatever you want to call it. I forget who said this, but it's some famous philosopher, but it's so funny. I heard John Danaher say it first, and I thought this was the deepest thing ever, but he's just taking it from someone else. But every man has two deaths. The first one is when he understands that he's going to die. And he gives this whole speech about it. And it's super fascinating to think about because until you admit your mortality, then you don't take the steps to go out in the world. This is, I think Marcus Aurelius said this. It's that if you live forever, there would be no necessity to live. You could do it in 1,000 years. You could do it in 2,000 years. So why even get out of bed? And it's the fact that we're going to die um, that gives us any sort of necessity to go out into the world. It gives us all meaning. Our death is, in fact, what gives our life purpose. So far, your favorite stream, I like this guy. Yeah, I do too.
Is water.
I knew he was going to bring it back.
It is unimaginably hard to do this, to stay conscious and alive in the adult world day in and day out. Which means yet another grand cliche turns out to be true. Your education really is the job of a lifetime.
Your education is the job of a life. And he's not talking about education in because this is a college commencement, but he's not talking about education in the literal sense that we think about it, where it's you go to school and you do this. It's education in the sense of self-awareness, self-knowledge, introspection, and learning to deal with the struggles of life, which I think is a much more important education than what we come to think of it as.
Hyper educated avant garde.
All right, so this is another interview. I didn't watch it because I didn't want to. I like to like not watch the things, and I hope that they're good. Sometimes it backfires, but today was a very good video to
Artist in
pick.
grad school learning to write. Right. Screen gets all fuzzy now as the viewer's invited to imagine this. Coming out of an avant-garde tradition, I get to this grad school, and the grad school turns out all the teachers are realists. They're not at all interested in postmodern avant-garde stuff. Now, there's an interesting delusion going on here. So they don't like my stuff. I believe that it's not because my stuff isn't good, but because they just don't happen to like this kind of aesthetic. In fact, known to them but unknown to me, the stuff was bad. It was indeed bad.
postmodernism is just it's a word that like it's a very tricky word to deal with because a lot when you say postmodernism, a lot of people don't like that word because it's just an umbrella term that fits in a lot of different ideas. But think of like two types of stories. The hero goes and gets the girl. Postmodernism is the hero dies. Easiest way to think about it. It's just the deconstruction of symbols, the deconstruction of reality, the deconstruction of belief systems. If you've studied Nietzsche, it's just Nietzsche's writings read very poorly, we'll just say.
So in the middle of all this, hating the teachers, but hating them for exactly the wrong reason, this was spring of 1986. I remember who I went to see the movie with. Blue Velvet comes out. Um, Blue Velvet comes out. Blue Velvet is a type of surrealism. It may have debts. There's a debt to Hitchcock somewhere, but it is an entirely new and original kind of surrealism. It no more comes out of a previous tradition or the postmodern. It is completely David Lynch.
I don't know any of these names. I'm sorry.
And I don't know how well you or your viewers would remember the film, but there are some very odd. There's a moment when a guy named the Yellow Man is shot in an apartment, and then Jeffrey, the main character, runs to the apartment, and the guy's dead, but he's still standing there. There's no explanation, you know? He's just standing there, and it's almost classically French, Franco-philistically surreal, and yet it seems absolutely true and absolutely appropriate. And there was this.
All right, let's go to
In Germany, we have this TV
because I feel like it's referencing things I don't know, so I can't give any input.
literary expert, and you call him the literary pope. So he's the pope of literature, and people think he has a very good niveau of everything, and he really knows when he says a book is good, the book is good.
Who is this guy?
His name is Marcel Reicharnitzky. Maybe you heard of him. And he's a very funny guy, and he's maybe 80 years old or something, and he has always this very
I was reading a book by Gurdjieff, and he was literally saying that like he knows a story of a music reviewer who knows absolutely nothing about music theory, but yet his opinion is respected, and that it's just there's this very like funny summary of like the entire idea of reviewing something. And it's like those who can't do teach. It's kind of a play on that. It's like people that can't write review things. And then now you have your exception that's like Borges. But I think people too put way too much weight into reviews and instead don't experience the things for themselves. Like if you want to understand how bad reviews are, just go on Goodreads and look at your favorite book because there's somebody that absolutely hates it, and it's like that's all the reason to not put any weight into a review because what somebody hates is what you love. You know, I don't necessarily like how Ulysses is just complete jumble and completely all over the place, but in fact, you might find inspiration in that because in a certain way it replicates our thoughts, in a certain way it replicates consciousness and the confusion of the world in which we exist. Where to me, I just want to read poetry. I don't necessarily want this jumbled thing that I can't make any sense of without doing a lot of research into Ireland's nationalistic politics and learning about Parnell and all sorts of references and names. But it's just I'm very much of the opinion like I don't know anybody that can tell me what I'm gonna like. I just have to experience it for myself.
this verdict on the book. So the book is shit.
He's part of your show? He's part of.
No. But he is just a figure in German culture. And but at the same time, he always wants what he doesn't want a book to be is boring. No, by no means boring. And at the same time, he really understands a lot about books, and he's really a good reader. But by saying all the time, well, things are not supposed to be boring, and I mean, I think that's really a mistake.
And I think it's like this idea is like the more you think about a book, the less you can appreciate it. Like if I read Borges and I'm looking for a story and there's no beginning, middle, and end, then I've missed the point of what he's trying to do because he's trying to capture my imagination with his tale. It's the same thing with if you like James Joyce, it's the same thing with James Joyce. James Joyce is if you like structure, you're going to hate him. But in fact, he has such an understanding of structure that he breaks all the rules, but it has some weird format that's deeply buried in it. And if you really take the time to find it, you can find it. It's
It's
boring to
getting
me.
for getting taken for granted. And I feel sometimes I also have this feeling that I don't want to be bored, but at the other on the other side, I see that it's not the option. I mean, I don't know, it's not right. I somehow have this feeling, even if it sounds stupid.
No, I mean, there's a difference, though, I think, between being mildly bored, but then there's another kind of boredom that I think you're talking about, which is reading. Reading requires sitting alone by yourself in a quiet room, and I have friends, intelligent friends, who don't like to read because it's not just bored. There's an almost dread that comes up, I think.
There's a lot of people that can't be alone with their own thoughts. There's a lot of people like, have you ever been in a room with somebody and there's no conversation going on, but they feel the need to talk to you? And it's like gone beyond the realm of pleasantries. It's just like they can't sit alone with silence. It's a very weird kind of thing. Really what that is you can't confront yourself. Like you're afraid to confront the reality of your life. You're afraid that you don't enjoy your own company. If you can't enjoy your own company, I don't know how you can enjoy the company of other people. I was having this conversation today, faking it until you make it is not appreciated enough. I know very low IQ people who make bank just because they know how to conduct themselves well. I mean, there's a certain reality to like if you idealize a picture of yourself in your head and you carry yourself with that conviction into your life that people are going to treat you as such. I mean, that's just essentially confidence. But imagine what you could do in your life if in each and every moment you could act with conviction that you know that things are going to work out. Like, how difficult would it be for you to put your foot in the door if you knew you were going to get that job interview? And like, there's a certain brilliance in being so hard-headed that you can't observe reality. There's a certain like I don't know how to explain it. It's like you're almost gifted if you're very low IQ because you don't have the observation of somebody that overthinks things, of somebody that dwells on negativity, on somebody that thinks in their mind like, I have this goal, but everything in my life is pointing me in this direction. Whereas a stubborn person is just not going to give into that sort of idea of thinking. I certainly agree with you, though.
Here about having to be alone and having to be quiet, and you see that when you walk in. When you walk into most public spaces in America, it isn't quiet anymore. They pipe music through, and the music's easy to make fun of because it's usually really horrible music. But it seems significant that we don't want things to be quiet ever anymore. And to me, I don't know that I could defend it, but that
It's literally a skill. No, for sure. I mean, if you get into like creativity, if you read any books on creativity, that's what they're going to tell you. The secret to creativity, so you don't have to buy like 20, 30 books, however many books I bought on this idea is think of the end state, think of yourself completely able of doing it, and then be gracious for your luck, be gracious for your ability to have done these things. Ignore the facts of reality, and then allow your imagination to fill in the gap. That's creativity. Like if I want to write something, I imagine myself having already written something great. I imagine the ideas and then they just come out. They just come out of me. They appear on the page. Um and it's getting over that like that's a very stupid way of doing things. It is very stupid, but it's just it's how imagination works.
that seems to me to have something to do with when you feel like the purpose of your life is to gratify yourself and get things for yourself and go all the time. There's this other part of you that's the same part that can kind of is almost hungry for silence and quiet and thinking really hard about the same thing for maybe half an hour instead of 30 seconds that doesn't get fed at all. And um, it, it makes itself felt in the body in a kind of dread in here. And I don't know whether that makes a whole lot of sense, but I think it's true that here in the U.S. every year the culture gets more and more hostile. I don't mean hostile like angry, just it becomes more and more difficult to ask people to read or to look at a piece of
There's such a necessity on I have to work, I have to go, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and it's like you're not like maybe you can become successful that way, but I want you to understand there's another option. And the other option is calm yourself down. You know, you can only work so hard. You can only do so many things in a day. You spread yourself so thin. What could you do today that would give you the most bang for your buck? Do that and then forget about everything else. Don't worry about something that you have to do in a year. Don't worry about something you have to do in 6 months. Worry about what can you do today to advance your position. I hear it. I can't even fathom it. Like I said, it's a skill. Unfortunately, I don't possess it. Do you meditate or do you have any sort of like I don't advocate meditating, but do you have any sort of like activity you can do where you lose yourself into it? Like you said you run. Like do you think while you run or do you just do it? Because in essence, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about gaining back your attention. And it's like the idea of the Taoist idea of Wu Wei, which I like to define as inspired action, which is just what do you do that you lose track of time doing and you feel invigorated after? You might have expended yourself very physically, very mentally, or very spiritually, but like afterwards you feel better. Afterwards you feel like you have a new lust for life, a new energy, a new intention and a purpose to put into things. And I mean, if you could just find a way to get that and keep that in mind and not worry about the end result, worry about moving towards a goal in that state, that's what it is. I mean, creativity and faking it till you make it are the same thing in essence. It's just some people do it unconsciously, some people have to do it consciously. I'm the person that has to do it consciously. I vastly overthink things. Why do you think I lost my hair? It's just all the blood is not going to my hair, it's going to my
Of
brain.
art for an hour, or to listen to a piece of music that's complicated and that takes work to understand, because, well, there are a lot of reasons, but particularly now in computer and internet culture, everything is so fast, and the faster things go, the more we feed that part of ourselves, but don't feed the part of ourselves that likes quiet, that can live in quiet, that can live.
Think of like what you do in your free time. And I'm not even saying free time is like you're off of work, but like you have 10 minutes to kill. Do you pick up a book and read it? Do you just sit there and observe nature, or are you consuming content? Are you delving your attention into things that are just distracting you instead of things that are making you more present? And when I say present, it's like, have you walked in your neighborhood and noticed details that you have never noticed yet you lived there your whole life? Do you sit outside and listen to the birds and all of a sudden you hear a stream trickling, or you hear the wind blowing, and your awareness and your senses become more heightened because you've kind of come into an equilibrium in this state. Like I know these are very like this doesn't seem like a big deal in terms of like how this can affect your life, but if you can get to these states more frequently and you can calm yourself down more frequently, then you can access your imagination, you can access your creative faculty, then you can start working on these skills and they can become part of your everyday life. And creative work is probably 1,000 times more effective and productive than work done out of fear, work done out of a deadline. How many books have been written since Shakespeare, and how many books have exceeded Shakespeare? I don't know if you could name one. Maybe you can name one. Maybe you have a book that you think has more universal appeal than Shakespeare, but I can't think of anything. And that's essentially what he's saying here is that there's a depth to our psyche, there's a depth to our soul, there's a depth to our heart, and an experience that we're yearning for, but we don't allow it to happen. You know, you're not allowed to be bored anymore. You're not allowing yourself to just allow your mind to sit there and rest. And, you know, sleep isn't enough rest for your mind. Your mind also needs to be able to daydream and be able to imagine. And when you can carry these faculties into the rest of your work, then you can, enjoy your work more. You don't have to be a painter to use your creative mind to do things. You can find creativity in your daily tasks. You can find creativity in the way that you design your home or the way that you dress or the little things that you can do. Contemplation can be used instead of meditation. Also, what you're saying is pretty much walking meditation or meditation itself. Yeah, yeah. Well, I just don't like tell people to meditate because I don't, I don't know if everyone has the attention to do it. And it's like, to me, I meditate every day, so it's super easy for me to do. But it was like years of practice and years of getting good at it so that I can even come up with like a routine of it. Whereas I think if you go on walks, it's the easiest way to kind of get into that state because there's a physical aspect to it as well. That's why I enjoy it. Like your mind is clear as well as your body because you're combining that activity.
without any kind of stimulation. I don't know. Let me insert one thing, which I'll bet you've noticed from talking to writers, is that most of the stuff that we think we're writing about in books is very difficult to talk about straight out. You know, question and answer, and in some sense, it probably can't be talked about directly, and that's why people make up stories about it. This is all a big defense because I feel like what I'm saying is so simple and so reductive. To, to the extent that I understand it, being what you call grown up isn't a lot of fun a lot of the time. There are things you have to do. There are things you want to do that you can't do for a variety of reasons.
It's like a double-edged sword. It's like I liken this to the idea of there's no such thing as a free lunch, in that with responsibility comes some freedom, but it also comes with freedom. And it's like the choices we make to sacrifice our freedom give us more responsibility, but they give us more safety. And it's life is a balancing game. I tend not to worry, however, I do overthink, but it's always positive overthinking because I tend to be very practical about things. I do find it difficult to be bored for sure. How do you do positive overthinking? Please tell me. Because every time I'm overthinking, it's always negative. I always have to like stop it dead in its tracks. Please enlighten me. Now, this is advice I'd eat up as a grown up. I've realized I've definitely lost a lot of creativity. I mean, what do you enjoy doing though? Like, do you have any creative passions? And that's really what it is that you need to find. It's that you need to understand that the material world, the worldly world is one that is seeking a set path. It's making man into a machine, as Gurdjieff would say. But when you can find little times throughout the day for creativity, so journaling, meditating, going on a walk, seeing things differently, reading a book, writing a book, painting, drawing, sketching, having a conversation, an argument, like there's all sorts of expression that we can find in a day-to-day basis, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's like any skill. You get better at it. You get better at pulling from imagination, pulling from intuition, sort of stuff like that. What's up, Fluffy Kitty? How's everything?
Reasons, and I think um, I think there, for young people in America, there are very mixed messages from the culture. Um, there's a streak of moralism in American life that extols the virtues of being grown up and having a family and being a responsible citizen. But there's also the sense of do what you want, gratify your appetites, because when I'm a corporation, appealing to the parts of you that are selfish and self-centered and want to have fun all the time.
Why would I strip you from being a mod? I feel like there's so many mods that don't show up. What he's saying here, though, is that there's like he sees this two-sided problem is that there's the carefree, no responsibility, and then there's the responsibility. And what he's going to say is go to the middle path. That this is just Jungian individuation. He's not going to call it that because I don't know if he studied Jung, but this is what Jung would tell you to do is that you must understand yourself so that you can take the negative aspects of your personality and turn them into a positive. And for most people, this is a vast generalization, but most people don't find creativity in their day to day because the world doesn't reward creativity. The world rewards people that follow the rules. The world rewards people that do what they're told, that sit still, that behave in a mannerly way. So how can we take this excess energy that we're putting to more negative things, such as consuming social media, consuming terrible entertainment, being wrapped up in more negative things we could do, like drinking and doing things that don't build us up. And we can put it to something positive, like creative expression, like drawing, like reading, like learning, like mindfulness practices, any sort of stuff like that. I do journal, walk, pray, slash meditate, but I don't think it nurtures my creativity. I mean, how do you journal? Because like most people's journal, this is why I don't journal anymore because my journaling was just checking off a list. I would write a list and I would do the activities and it became like obsessive. It became like something that I did for the sake of doing. I didn't do it for the benefit of the activities. Whereas like now, if I want to express something, I write it. You know, if I have an idea that I'm dwelling on, I'll craft it into a story, I'll craft it into a poem, or I'll find some way to talk about it on the channel. That's more so how I found it. Maybe you're different though. You know what I mean? Like again, it's what do you want to do, and it's finding your medium to express it. Because everyone's gonna have a different way of doing it. It could be dance. I know a lot of people find there's a certain thing that you can only get out through the expression of the physical body. Like there's a certain energy, and I can resonate with that because I train jujitsu. There's a certain aspect, there's a certain energy that I can only fulfill in myself when I go test myself physically and learn new moves and learn the intricacies and get better at it and test myself against other people. It's just there's different ways of doing it, is all I'm trying to say. What's up, Sahita? How's everything?
Is the best way to sell you things, right? And it works very well as a system for running an economy and keeping goods produced and sold, and it works wonderfully. The ways in which it doesn't work are much more difficult to talk about. So what would I mean? Yeah, you said it's but what speaking of that, where doesn't it work? One's reduced to talking. I think about general terms like like being being grown up, or or um, a term that's rarely used here anymore. And see, and now I feel embarrassment because I'm going to sound like my grandfather or something. But the word citizen, the idea of being a citizen, it would be to understand your country's history and the things about it that are good and not so good and how the system works and taking the trouble.
There's like this arbitrary duty that we have to accept. It's like, no, you don't. The more you evoke these duties that are against your nature, the easier it is to exist. I think I mean, that's Emerson in a nutshell. It's that if you're compelled to do something that you don't feel is right, that you don't agree with, that you think is taking you in the wrong direction, you have the duty to go in the other direction.
To learn about candidates for political office, which means often reading stuff, which it isn't fun. Sometimes it's boring. but when people don't do that, here's what happens: the candidates win who have the most money to buy television advertisements because
They're gonna do that anyway. It's like it doesn't matter who you vote for, you're getting John McCain. Regardless of who you vote for, the powers that be will be the powers that be. You recently started doing 500-piece jigsaw puzzles. I mean, no, that's something too. My girlfriend loves doing them. They're fun. It's like it's a different way of using your brain. It's just essentially what Jung said about individuation is you have to go out and try new things. You have to go out and experience new things. Like I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you what's going to make you happy. Love to go back to self-reliance every now and then, of course. I literally just did a whole stream about it. It was so fun to go through. Rereading it, I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever read because I kind of I don't want to say I forgot about it. Like I referenced it all the time, but I hadn't read it in so long that I didn't remember the finer points. And I'm going back and reading it. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff in here that I missed the first time. So I was so impressed rereading it.
television advertisements are
I
almost
completely forgot my point, but I was
voters know about the candidates. Therefore, we get
Jungian individuation is essentially what Jung was saying is like, I can't tell you what you need to do. It's that you need to go out into the world and experience what you do like, what you don't like, and the things that you find, the things that you find that give you meaning, that give you purpose. Like And you might get lucky, you might find it on the first try, you might find something that really drives you, or you might be searching for a long time, but in that search you're going to find the things that you do like, the things that you don't. And it's like that the Tolkien quote, not all who wander are lost. And I know the context is different, but I love to use this quote. And really what it's saying is that, like, you have to experience the things you have to experience so that you can face the challenges for the time that they're going to rise up. It's the idea that Nietzsche loved, which is amor fati, love your fate, love everything that happens to you, because it builds you to be who you were meant to be. It builds you up so that you can face the things that are going to be confronting you. I read it in high school and loved it, but didn't have the mind to think it was a real path. You're so lucky, dude. We read Into the Wild in high school instead of reading Walden. The whole book is like, I feel like like it's a sad story. It's an interesting story, but to me it feels like propaganda against Walden, because they're subliminally implanting the idea that you can't find the necessity of life, that you can't isolate yourself, that you can't break down your life to something that is more. You can't find meaning in nothing. You can't find meaning in just the bare minimum of life. But yeah, I was very frustrated because looking back, I'm like, I probably would have loved Walden in high school, because like to this day, like there's several books that I read in high school that, like, genuinely I can say have a huge impact on me. Like I read Crime and Punishment, I read Frankenstein. Um, there's another book I read that I liked. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but those two books, like I keep coming back to. I even read Milton in high school. I read Milton in sophomore year, and like I promise you, I won't shut up about Milton when I read him in like another month or so. Like, if you don't like John Milton, just leave the channel now, because I promise you, I'm gonna just completely be consumed by Paradise Lost, just as I am right now with Dante. I love Dante. It's just I'm so angry because I'll read something and I'll be like, this is an idea I've been thinking about for years, and I didn't know about this. Like, I knew about the book, but I didn't know about it talked about this, and I just, you know what I mean? Like, you feel like you're late to the party because it's this is something Emerson said in Self-Reliance, is that in every work of genius is an unrecognized thought that the individual dismissed. And really, what we see when we read something that is the work of a genius is we see a thought that we didn't have the fortitude to believe in. We saw a thought or an idea or a way of viewing things that is so against convention that we didn't dare think it ourselves.
Candidates who are beholden to large donors and become.
Let's talk about Emerson. Let me find a video real quick.
Writer, lecturer.
All right, I'll be back in a minute, but we're going to talk about Emerson when I get back. Let me just make sure you can see this. Yeah, okay. Because I brought it out of the tab for a second. This is Pursuit of Wonder. We've great channel. I feel like we it seems like every other stream we come to one of the videos. So yeah.
and philosopher
I'll probably end the stream after this, but we'll go through this video. Does it sound loud?
Ralph Waldo Emerson is regarded as one of the primary founders of America.
It was just the music. Beautiful day out here today. It is a beautiful day. It's like actually warm. Winter's almost over. It's like the greatest feeling. There's been snow on the ground for like a month and a half, and now it's finally melting.
American literature and can be credited with inspiring many prolific writers, writing styles.
Nietzsche carried a collection of Emerson's essays with him and heavily annotated it. And he also said that Emerson was the only great mind to come out of America, which to a certain degree I agree with. He's certainly the finest. I think he is really the peak of all American writing. I think everything that Walt Whitman said that was great, Emerson said better. Emily Dickinson is a lot of the core of what she writes is things that Emerson wrote. Trying to think of other names. Hemingway. There's a seed of Emerson in him. Uh, I haven't read Faulkner. I haven't read Steinbeck as an adult, so I'm not gonna comment. But I think anything that Emerson wrote, there's a certain beauty in him because he primarily wrote essays. A lot of his journals are also published now, which some people think are his finest writing. But Emerson's able to say in a handful of pages what it takes the average philosopher entire volumes, entire collections, 500, 600 pages to say, and he says it so artfully and so beautifully and so pure that it's just you can't help but be inspired. Wish I could say the same. I blame the weather for stripping me of my creativity. Y'all out there basking in the sun. Dude, it's not sunny here. It was like it was like negative 20 degrees like last week. Like it's not nice here. At least the sun doesn't go down at 4:30 here anymore, but I guess you could say it's not doom and gloom, but like it's just like dirty snow at this point. Like the snow is like literally like brown just because of all like the shit that kicked up from the road.
Cultural perspectives, and philosophical movements. Emerson was born in 1803 in Boston, Massachusetts, to Ruth Haskins and William Emerson, his father being a Christian minister descending from a lineage of previous ministers. During his adolescence, Emerson studied at Harvard University, and following graduation, he would go on to teach at his brother's school for young women. After several years
Emerson gave a speech at Harvard. He's like, Jesus is not the Son of Man at the seminary school, and everyone was like, "What are you doing, dude? It's summer here." Oh yeah, you're in Australia, right? Aren't you in like what is it called, the bush or something? What is like the uninhabited part of Australia called? Snow is beautiful. It's not. Snow is cool for like an hour, and then when you have to shovel it, you're like, I'm over this. And then when you have to see it for the next month, you're like, I'm really over this. Like, I have not seen my yard in like a month and a half. Okay. But Emerson was a Unitarian, so like it makes sense why he said that. But like, this is so funny because like, if I was preaching to an audience of like people, I'm definitely not gonna say something that's gonna piss them off.
of teaching, he
He
would then
didn't care
enroll
though.
into divinity school at Harvard to train to become a pastor. In 1829, he was ordained into Boston's Second Church and would spend the following 3 years or so as a pastor. During this time, however, Emerson would find an increasing sense of detachment and disagreement with traditional religious practices and ways of thinking.
Emerson, I don't think Emerson had a problem with God or the worship of God, but there's a quote from him that I'll say that'll define it. He said, "The best part of church is when everyone is sitting there reflecting, being quiet, and that immediately is destroyed when the sermon begins." Which to Emerson, it was like retreat into the self is a religious experience enough. Yeah, we call it out bush or outback. Dude, Outback Steakhouse is closed now. I'm so sad. Is it closed all around, or is it just the one near me?
Specifically, he found that contemporary Christianity countered and sedated the very essence of human spirituality that it was supposed to inspire. Around 3 years after becoming a pastor, and
I think Emerson would agree with this idea, but Nietzsche said that Jesus was the last Christian. Actually, no, he pretty much said this himself. He said something along the lines of every Stoic is a Stoic, but where is the Christian in a Christian society? And what he's saying is that nobody actually follows the idea of turning the other cheek. Nobody actually follows the idea of let he who has no sin cast the first stone. The golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, like those sorts of ideas. Vastly oversimplifying, but
after about 1 year following his first wife's young death of tuberculosis, Emerson resigned from the church. I have sometimes thought that, in order to be a good minister, it was necessary to leave the ministry.
they're still there in Maryland. Okay, so maybe it's just the one near me closed. I was like gonna take my girlfriend there. I'm like, what? It shut down? I was so heartbroken. Is that the Outback's the place with like the onion that you like rip the part off and it's like fried? Is that what I'm thinking about?
Emerson wrote in his journal. Following his stint as a pastor, Emerson spent the next years writing and publishing his first major essays while developing a career as a public lecturer. Emerson would make his first significant mark on the public with his controversial lectures that suggested the value of separating from commonly withheld religious ideas and traditions, and in place, argued for infusing new, independent, forward thinking.
His belief behind this is that if we replicate history, if we have such a reverence for history, then all we can repeat is history. But if we want to move forward, if we want to get into a better state of things, then we have to break free from the old. We have to take what was good and move forward. Blooming onion. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know if I've ever had. Isn't it like $20 or something? It's like something obscene. It's like something that could only exist in America, I
Thinking
swear.
that relied on the self for divine experience and understanding. During the following decades, Emerson continued giving lectures and producing several major influential works of literature. He would soon become recognized as one of the mid-19th century leading writers and thinkers, inspiring individuals like Henry David Thoreau, Friedrich Nietzsche, Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, and
We wouldn't have a Henry David Thoreau without Emerson. I don't know why nobody says this. Emerson rented the land on Walden Pond so that Thoreau could live there for 2 years, 3 months, and 2 days. And he urged Thoreau to write a journal of it, which then became Walden, and then he urged Thoreau to publish it as well. It's the only reason we know who Henry David Thoreau is. And Walt Whitman kind of screwed Emerson over because he sent Emerson an early version of Leaves of Grass, and Emerson was like, I love this. This is like the finest American poetry I've ever read, and it brings writing into a whole new sphere of things. Something along the lines of that. And then it was supposed to be a private letter, and then Walt Whitman published it, and Emerson was like, "What the fuck?" And if you read anything by Emily Dickinson, you see the connection with Emerson. She's very good at explaining nature and somewhat tying that to the soul of all existence. And I mentioned the Nietzsche connection earlier. Nietzsche said himself that me and Emerson are brothers of the soul, essentially saying that they coincide on many of their ideas, which I like to read Nietzsche from the context of Emerson. I truly do. I think it brings like a positivity to it that you otherwise wouldn't get. Um, because obviously his writing is so confronting, his writing is so fiery, it's so difficult to read at points because it hits you in the face. He's like that friend that tells you the truth that you don't want to hear. That's Nietzsche. Whereas Emerson's the person that lays it softly, that puts it to you nicely.
innumerable others, as well as being the key figure in helping give way to new cultural perspectives and philosophical movements, especially the philosophy known as Transcendentalism, which Emerson is regarded as the father of. Emerson's philosophy can perhaps be best explained in two of his most famous essays, Nature, published in 1836, and Self-Reliance, published in 1841. Between these two works, Emerson primarily discusses man and nature being a unified singular whole.
Just think of, I think people associate it too much with actual nature, like, oh, the transcendentalists just wanted to go out into the woods and walk around. To a certain degree, yes, but think of it in the Taoist sense of like following your nature, of breaking your life down to simplicity, and in the simplicity there's beauty. When you're running around worrying about all this stuff, when you can't focus on the things that really matter, then you lose track of what really matters. Whereas when you calm yourself down, when you simplify your life, where you don't give your attention to the things that are unnecessary in your life, then you find divine purpose and you find divine meaning. That's my way of describing transcendentalism.
Whole, the value of trusting one's own intuition and sense of reality.
If you've read the Gita, then you understand Emerson, because Emerson studied the Gita and was very much inspired by that, as well as Thoreau read it as well.
And the realization and forthright expression of one's unique greatness and truth. More specifically, Emerson posed that all of nature is an expression and permeation of one metaphysical essence of the universe, or God, and
That's his idea of the oversoul. Think of Spinoza's God with like a spirit to it as well. Spinoza's God is kind of like a mundane way of seeing a monad or a godhead, but essentially everything is all a fractured part of God.
that we are all both the expressions and expressors of this singular oneness. Nature in its ministry to man, Emerson wrote, is not only the material but is also the process and the result. In this, there is no separation between humanity and nature, where humanity can will itself onto nature, nor nature onto humanity, but rather,
He saw the world as like a cycle. So like when he was alive, he was taking his part in the cycle. He was playing his part in the game, his part in the play, and that his what made him up would soon be something else, and sort of like a reverence for things, sort of like a acceptance and a love for this. It feels like our pursuit for greed has created superficial material identities. Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really what a lot of I use Walden and Emerson interchangeably, if you don't know, but that's really what a lot of Walden um, was talking about. Essentially, that like the more things you have, the more attachment you have to those things, the more you want more of those things. Whereas if you break your life down to the bare minimum, then you actually have only the things that you need. Whereas if you're operating from, a very rich perspective, let's say you have a giant house, let's say you have a lot of cars, let's say you have all these things, like you'll always be thinking about more because you'll always be looking to some sort of validation from the outside world that I'm respected. And I promise you that there's always going to be a bigger house. There's always going to be a bigger car. There's always going to be somebody cooler than you. Like think about Elon. Like to me, like a lot of his striving in this world is like to be considered cool. He already has all the money in the world, but he wants people to like his tweets. Like it's like it's so funny.
everything is essentially nature interacting with nature. Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing, I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God, Emerson wrote. For Emerson, the distinction between the trees, the bugs, the dirt, the stars, and everything else is all but a phenomenal distinction, not necessarily a real one.
It reminds me a lot of Spinoza, this argument.
Rather, he believed that
If you don't know who Spinoza is, you should read him. A very interesting guy and really credited as like the first secular philosopher. But his big idea is all substance is finite and all matter in the universe is it can't be created or destroyed. So if we go off this metaphysical presumption, then we can go off and understand that like what you are is in somewhat relation to other things because at one point all substance was combined. If you break substance down to its building block levels, then it is identical. And there's something connecting each and everything. It's a very like interesting way of like defining God because it's purely done in a physical sense. I thought it was fascinating. I don't think it's like too interesting beyond that, but it's just it was one of the strongest arguments I've ever seen for the existence of something more.
God is one thing found in everything and through everything, every object, every individual, and every particle of existence in the eternal now. As such, for Emerson, the transcendent spiritual experience is not found from any outward, previous, or future source, but within the individual in any given moment. Moments where one's own mind illuminates the common features of their surroundings with potency, beauty, and interconnectedness. Alongside this, Emerson also asserted that nature is in a constant state of flux and that we must live in coordination with its process, trusting
Think of I mention Heraclitus like every single day. It's getting annoying at this point. I feel like you can never step in the same river twice. And this is essentially how Emerson sees the world, is that everything's always changing. You try to step in the same river, you have changed, you become older, you're wearing different clothes. Something about you has become different. The river has changed as well. The sediment has gone down the river, and it's infinitesimally small difference, but it's still different.
our own intuition and flowing with the changing self. In order to do this, he argued that we must not hold ourselves to ideas, beliefs, or traditions of the past, including our own. Rather, Emerson suggested that our state is subject to
I don't know how to say that name. Calls it the continuation. You're talking about the cycle of things, like the Heraclitus's idea.
change, and consequently, we might feel or think one way today and the opposing way tomorrow. Instead of fighting this, however, Emerson argued that we must lean into it. No man, he wrote, can antedate his experience or guess what faculty or feeling a new object shall unlock, any more than he can draw today the face of a person whom he shall see tomorrow for the first time.
Emerson has his great ideas like "So What I Contradict Myself." It's an idea Walt Whitman kind of made famous with. Of course, I contradict myself. I contain many multitudes. But to Emerson, like to not contradict yourself was to not grow. Think who you were a year ago. If you believe everything that you believed, did you even live? Now, maybe you believe similar things, but I'm sure you've lightened your perspective in certain ways. I'm sure you've explored new ideas and somewhat changed. Like to remain the same is to have already died. The whole point of life is change, is really what Emerson's saying.
In other words, no one can know what life might be like tomorrow, nor what such life may cause one to think or feel. However, one must move with it and live according to the present now. Out of this emerges what is perhaps Emerson's most popular concept, known as self-reliance. Emerson argued that we often neglect to ever realize the unique perspective and greatness that comes from our particular
Think of just your voice, what your heart is guiding you to, your authentic experience, not sacrificing yourself for the sake of conformity. Like think about on a daily basis, like you don't do something because of somebody else, or you don't do something because there's the societal pressure. You are afraid to do certain things because of what other people say about you. Well, you are rejecting self-reliance because you are the only person that can make you happy. You could have everything in the world and still be unhappy. The only person that can make you happy is yourself. That's really the point of it. I search new music for new feelings and philosophy. Dude, I am like for the longest time I was like so against music, and I've been trying to study this week and I really couldn't focus. I started playing classical music and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. So I am on board with you. Like there's something to harmonics, there's something to frequency, and there's something that speaks to your soul that can't be replicated anywhere else, and I am very much on board. Perhaps it's because I'm studying Gurdjieff right now, and that's why I'm feeling this way. Like I'm reading a book. It's called what is it called? How do I not know the name of the book I'm reading? It's over there. It's The Lives of Remarkable Men. That's what it is. I probably got it wrong. But the funniest part is like it's very ironic because the most interesting part I found was when he was talking about a woman he met, and she was basically saying that she was experimenting with different chords and different music, and she was able to make people fall asleep because they were so comfortable around her that they just fell asleep like babies. And I'm like, this is one of the most fascinating things I've ever read. And it's so funny that it's in a book titled that. But
culmination of experiences and states. Not because we don't have access to such greatness, but because we are often held back and pulled away from it by others and systems of convention. For Emerson, great artists, thinkers, writers, and so on aren't necessarily great merely because they possess access to any higher exclusive source of information or being, but because they are willing to address and express candidly what they feel in any given moment of life.
So what he's saying is genius is something we all have, but we neglect to emphasize, we neglect to listen to, because I'm sure Emerson would. This is my interpretation of it, that anybody can repeat what other people say, but not everybody can speak to what the heart has to say. And things of this world, philosophies of this world, belief systems of this world are boring. They're limited. They're hypocritical. As Nietzsche said, all morality is hypocritical. All morality is contradictory. Oh, we have peace. How'd you get peace? You got to go to war. Oh, we have freedom. Well, do you really have freedom, or do you have more laws than any other country in the world? Talking about America. Like, there, it, everything is contradictory if it exists of this world. But things of the soul, things of a higher order, things such as Dante's Inferno, or Shakespeare, or Tolkien's works. Like, what is that but expression of a universal soul? What is that except expression of something so deep to the character of humanity? Like, how else does it resonate so finely if it's not just a universal archetype that they were able to capture in their art?
Despite how it might reflect on the standard norm. And in doing so, they reveal not only their unique take on the world, but also the thoughts and sensations hidden within a great many others who feel the same. Arguably, great artists and writers aren't merely popular because they say something no one has thought of or experienced before, but because they say something that most of us have, but weren't sure if we were right to do so. Emerson believed that for the sake of one's work and sense of self, the individual must rely on themselves alone and recognize that what they feel and think is real and legitimate.
What you feel is just as legitimate as what the consensus feels. And in fact, it's more real because it's your experience. It's not what other people think. Because even if the whole world is telling you're wrong, you feel right, you should go with your own gut until proven otherwise. Until in your heart you know that you're going the wrong way. Like, think about taking an unconventional path. That's essentially what you're doing, is that nobody sees it until they see it in this world. They are judging based off their perception, and their perception is limited. You have a goal in your heart, you have a dream in your heart. And if you don't follow it, you're never going to get there. But along the course of following it, people are going to tell you you're taking the wrong path because they don't see it the way you see it. They don't see the work you're putting in. They don't see the vision. They don't see the things and the steps that you're going to take in order to get there. And in fact, they will only see it when it's too late. But you have to be fervent in this conviction to carry it out. You can't give in to the naysayers. You can't give in to the people that are telling you to quit. It's one of the most difficult things you could ever do. But it's when you start taking yourself more serious than other people, then you can find yourself. But if you are forever afraid of the opinions of other people, then you will forever not know your own true thoughts and things.
In a very Cartesian idea, if we can know anything at all, it is merely that we exist, and if we can suppose anything at all, it is merely our own experience. This does not disparage our sympathy for others' ideas, nor our connection with the natural world, but rather it serves to prevent the disparagement of ourself amidst it all.
Think Emerson has this, because you might think this is selfish, but it's not selfish. In fact, it's I need to be all that I can be so that I can allow others to be all that they can be. It's Gandhi's idea of be the change you want to see in the world. If you want the world to be free, you have to be free yourself first. If you want the world to follow its passion, to be less materialistic, then you have to do that as well first. I can't tell you what to do. You're not going to listen to me. You're not going to understand that I've went through a set of trials and pain and difficulties, and that's how we've learned these things. You have to go through it yourself first. But the only way that you're going to want to do that is if you see the image of somebody that has done it. If you see the success, if you see there's a better way. We all have that friend that's so stubborn that can't get out of his own way. And you can't help him. You can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. The only way you can help somebody is inspiring them through your action. Can't give it away if you don't have it. Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Why didn't you just say that earlier? I had to go in the whole speech. Come on, man. I'm losing my. No, I'm not losing my voice, but I'm going to be soon. And you just saved me the breath.
It serves to promote
I hate when I say something and it takes me 10 minutes and somebody says something and it summarizes it in one sentence and I'm like, why didn't I just, why didn't that just come to me earlier?
trust in our own unique interpretations and experiences and encourages us to express their individual merit. In slight contrast to Emerson, it appears reasonable to also argue that perhaps there are variations in the resources and conditions of each individual.
Why are you talking about this, man? That's not Emerson's belief. This is like so contradictory to anything Emerson would believe because Emerson, essentially what Emerson urged you to do is that jealousy was denial of your divine gift. And what your divine gift is your imagination, is your freedom, is your ability to take a set of actions and get to a certain goal. So that when you're jealous of somebody, what it is it's denying your divine capabilities, your divine imagination. And to see someone else's accomplishments as your own. Because let's break down accomplishments. What are accomplishments? What are goals? What are these things? You know, a record is only there to be broken. There's not a single record that will not be broken at some point. And if somebody has done it, then that proves you can do it because there's a set of actions they took to get to that end state. So now you just have to copy them. And guess what? Progress is linear. That means you could do it better. That means if you think so lowly of this person that you think they got handed something that they didn't deserve, well, guess what? You could do it better. And that's the Emersonian way of thinking of these things. I don't know why he's saying it this way.
And thus, one's ability to trust and or express themselves is not always equal. If nature and human is a unified whole carried out through a process of self-fulfilling change, is it not also possible?
Because like he said all these good things about Emerson's philosophy and how it's freeing and how you can get away from society, but then you're giving yourself an out. There's no rule without an exception. That's why I speak in absolutes sometimes. That's why I don't, because I don't believe that there's any one solution for anybody. I don't believe that everyone in the world could benefit from Emerson. In a way, I do, but in a way, I know it's futile. But I say things in absolute conviction because I know it to be true. There's an exception. There's an end case. There's an end scenario. But for me, it serves me nothing to, in the back of my mind, give myself an excuse. In the back of my mind, tell myself, well, I can't do this because I had this. What good does that do? All that does is that takes the power away from me. You know, if I don't have control of my life, then for the rest of my life, I can point to somebody and say, you're the reason I didn't do this. You're the reason I didn't do this. And if you don't want to do anything in your life, if you just want to blame people, point the finger, then go ahead. But like to me, what self-reliance means is that in every moment, I am responsible for the things that happen to me. I'm responsible for the way I deal with things. I'm responsible for the way I move forward. And I can make the most of it or I can make the least of it. And to make the least of it is to make excuses, is to not act, is to not grow, is to not be inspired. Emerson said best in his essay Compensation. Well, I'm going to give two quotes. One is every wall is a door. So every challenge makes you face something that you weren't prepared for, and you have to rise to the occasion to overcome it. If you don't face failure, then you don't know how good you are. But once you know how good you are, then you can take the lessons that you needed to learn. You can reframe it. You can become better. The other quote I want to say is this one I know is from Compensation. I don't know where the other one's from, but in every instance, there are both equal parts good and equal parts bad. And this is somewhat reminiscent of King Solomon getting the ring that says, "This too shall pass." But I'll explain Emerson's example. Let's say something good happens to you. That closes the door to something better happening to you. You get your dream job. Well, there's a job that's even better, that's closer, that has better benefits, better work environment that you're not going to go for now because you got this. Let's say you miss an opportunity. Well, you missed the opportunity, but now you know what ground you stand on. Now you know the improvements you have to make. Now it forces you to look back on the way you prepared, on the way that you did things, on if you really want to do this thing. So in fact, it's beneficial because it builds you to become better. And that's the Emersonian way of viewing things. I don't know why he included this at the
Possible
end.
that one's own ability to defend and tap into themselves is part of a natural order and fluctuation beyond one's will. Of course, this simply serves to beg the question that if we were all transparent eyeballs, how much say do we have and how much vision we have? Perhaps Emerson's concept of self-reliance can still exist in harmony with this question. Perhaps so long as one authentically stands in their own position of confusion and limitation, they've still remained in accordance with their own relative truth and greatness, and the notion of self-reliance.
Emerson didn't believe in limitations. Limitations are self-imposed. They truly are. Again, you could find an example of it not being the case. It's not what we're here to talk about. The challenges you face in this world are mostly of your own design, mostly of your own action. Why haven't you gone after that goal? Why haven't you tried to start that business? Why haven't you started that YouTube channel? Why haven't you done the thing that you said you were going to do? It's because in your head, you've already given yourself the out. You've already given yourself the defeat. You already told yourself, I don't deserve this. I can't do this. It's self-defeation. So is that how you say it? Self-defeating. You defeated yourself before you even began. How sad is that? And I'm talking from experience. I do this on a daily basis. The reason I understand Emerson so well is because these ideas are in my head all day long because I've had to fight against myself, against my the side of myself that wants to give and the side of myself that wants to listen to the naysayers, the side of myself that wants to listen to convention, and I have to fight against it every single day to put my face on camera, to try, to fail, to go out there, to face things that I'm unsure if I can really face. It's a never-ending battle.
Hold steady. Of course, like all philosophies and philosophers, Emerson's ideas in general aren't without flaws or counter-arguments, but it is the fault of our rhetoric that we cannot
I don't know about that because Emerson is more of a poet. And in some regards, Emerson's philosophy is the deepest because it's spiritual.
strongly state one fact without seeming to belie some other. I hold our actual knowledge very cheap, Emerson wrote. With this, Emerson himself suggested that he never spoke with any objective certainty or final truth regarding what he
There's like there's a Latin saying, "There's no rule without an exception," and it's somewhat a Heraclitus paradox is what he's speaking in, but I mean it's the true nature of wisdom. It's what works for me is not going to work for you. That's really what he's saying.
thought. For this and
The Tao Te Ching, which is some of the best philosophy ever written, is it says the Tao that we are describing is not the true Tao because the true essence of things is beyond our comprehension. It's the Platonic idea of forms. It's that you can never really see the truth because your truth is bounded by your perception.
other reasons unmentioned, self-reliance and individuality is not easy. It does not simply come from agreeing with poetic prose. To know and trust oneself in the face of consistent change, confusion, and a world that works to consolidate everyone is perhaps one of the hardest things anyone can do. And furthermore, not always, but certainly some of the time, it comes with the risk of some amount of separation from the common populace and conventional norms. However, perhaps the question one must ask here is, if all we can know and experience is ourself, how can any life be lived fully if one denies themselves before even trying?
I feel like I said that a few minutes ago, but you are already telling yourself you can't do something before you go out and to do it. Before you go out and do it. Wow, I'm not able to speak anymore.
If we hide or hinder ourselves out of the fear of rejection from others, are we not, in essence, rejecting our own self first, the only person we truly and inescapably have to live with? Emerson's work is a reinforcement and reminder of the importance of combating.
To me, I find like a lot of analogies between Emerson and Jung. Perhaps that's why I like both of them so much, is that they are essentially trying to lead you to yourself. I wish I remembered who said this, But a good leader doesn't lead you. They lead you to yourself. Is that they help you find out who you really are. And I think that's at the core of Jung's psychological system. I think that's at the core of Emerson's philosophical system. And if you really want a deep insight onto my channel, that's what's at the core of everything I truly enjoy, is that it helps you sift through what is meaningful in this world and what isn't. That's the stuff that truly fascinates me.
this to attempt to live in the
All right, that was a good video. I think he's gonna do, yeah, he's doing a merch plug. Um, I have some more studying I want to do, so I'm gonna end this here. I'm gonna stream again on Friday for sure. Next week, maybe I stream on Wednesday again. If I don't stream on Wednesday, I'll certainly do a longer stream on Thursday to make up for it. But I have something big on Wednesday that I might just be exhausted from after. But members only stream will be on Sunday. We're talking about the Babylon lottery is the story we're going over. Become a member if you're interested in that extra stream every week. If not, I appreciate you all the same. I appreciate you for being here. This was a really fun stream. I feel like we got a lot of interesting stuff out, but yeah, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I will catch you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night.